Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
Welcome to our Parsha and our Shabbat meal for this week. And the title of the Parsha for this week is called Ve'era, and I appeared, and it's taken from Exodus 6 chapter 2nd verse through the 9th chapter, the 35th verse. In my Torah, the Parsha is divided into 3 sections. The first is entitled The Second Revelation, Exodus 6 chapter, 2nd verse to the 7th chapter, 13th verse. The second part is entitled The First 6 Plagues, Exodus 7th chapter, 14th verse to the 9th chapter, 12th verse. And the third part is called The Last 4 Plagues, Exodus 9th chapter, 13th through the 35th verse. And of course that only doesn't deal with the final plagues, this particular part, but it, I believe, goes up to the 6th plague in that parsha, before the parsha ends. So it reads, Ve'yedaber Elohim el Moshe ve'yomer elav ani Adonai ve'era el Avraham el Yitzchak ve'el Yaakov ve'el Shaddai Ush mi Adonai lo nodati lehem. God spoke to Moses and said to him, I am the Lord. I appeared to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob as El Shaddai, but I did not make myself known to them by my name, Yud-He, Vav-He.
Psalm 85. Lord, thou hast been favorable unto thy land. Thou hast brought back the captives of Jacob. Thou hast forgiven the iniquities of thy people. Thou hast covered all their sins. Thou hast taken away all thy wrath, and have turned thyself from the fierceness of thine anger. Turn us, O God, to our salvation, and cause thine anger towards us to cease. Wilt thou be angry with us forever? Wilt thou draw out thine iniquity to all generation? Wilt thou revive us again, that thy people may rejoice in thee? Show us thy mercy, O Lord, and grant us thy salvation. I will hear what God the Lord will speak. For he will speak peace unto his people and to his saints, but let them not turn away to folly. Surely his salvation is nigh them that fear him, that glory may dwell in our land. Mercy and truth are met together. Righteousness and peace have kissed each other. Truth shall spring out of the earth, and righteousness shall look down from heaven. Yea, the Lord shall give that which is good, and our land shall yield her increase. Righteousness shall go before him, and set us in the way of his steps. This is the word of the Lord. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. May your kingdom come. May your will be done. We give thanks to you, Lord, for delivering us from a place we could not get ourselves out of, from an eternal sin. And we're thankful, Lord, for being a great deliverance for us, for opening our eyes and teaching us your ways, for persuading us of the good life that you have, the life that we will only have is in you, Lord. We give thanks for Christ who came, and through him we are delivered, freed from the penalty of sin, and freed and redeemed back to you, as our brethren Jews were delivered from Egypt and freed from the house of bondage. You delivered them, Lord, for no other human agent could deliver them, and with ourselves no human agent other than the Messiah himself could deliver us. And we are both delivered, and we were both freed, and we do what free men do. We rest and acknowledge the God who frees, the God of power and might, and the God of mercy. And this is the day we show that we are free. And we give thanks, Lord. This we pray in the name of our Christ Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Hamotze Lechem means how thou art. Blessed art thou, Lord our God, King of the universe, who gives us bread from the earth. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Berei pri hagathem. Blessed art thou, Lord our God, King of the universe, who gives us the fruit of the vine. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
Okay. All right. As usual, and I always say we have a very special lesson, a Parsha, and it's because it talks about the Exodus, and that's why I love this Parsha. And the first part is called the second revelation, which I think is, as I was reading it, it put me in the mind of Revelation, the revelation of Jesus. And it's Exodus 6th chapter, verse 2 through the 7th chapter, verse 13. And John, if you'll read the first part, if you read that, if you need, it's not that long. And then we'll have a break. And then, because the second part is, well, anyway, I won't explain why we have a break, but we'll have a break after this right here.
Okay, 6:2 to
6:2 to 7:13.
Okay. And the Lord spake unto Moses and said unto him, I am the Lord, and I appeared unto Abraham, unto Isaac, and unto Jacob by the name of God Almighty, but by my name Jehovah was I not known to them. And I have also established my covenant with them to give them the land of Canaan, the land of their pilgrimage, wherein they were strangers. And I have also heard the groaning of the children of Israel, whom the Egyptians keep in bondage, and I have remembered my covenant. Wherefore say unto the children of Israel, I am the Lord, and I will bring you out from under the bondage of the Egyptians, and I will rid you of their bondage, and I will redeem you with a stretched out arm and a great judgment. And I will take you to me for a people, and I will be to you a God, and you shall know that I am the Lord your God, which brought you out from under the bondage of the Egyptians. And I will bring you into a land concerning which I have swore to give it to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. And I will give it to you for an heritage. I am the Lord. And Moses spake so unto the children of Israel, but they hearkened not unto Moses for anguish of spirit, and for cruel bondage. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Go in, speak unto Pharaoh, king of Egypt, that he let the children of Israel go out of his land. And Moses spake unto the Lord, saying, Behold, the children of Israel have not hearkened unto me. How then shall Pharaoh hear me, who am of uncircumcised lips? And the Lord spake unto Moses and unto Aaron, and gave them a charge unto the children of Israel, and unto Pharaoh king of Egypt, to bring the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. These be the heads of their family's house, the sons of Reuben, the firstborn of Israel, Hanam and Polu, Hezron and Carmi. These be the families of Reuben. And the sons of Simeon, Jemuel and Jamin, and Ohad, and Jachin, and Zohar, and Shaul, and the sons of the Canaanitish woman. These are the families of Simeon. And these are the names of the sons of Levi, according to their generation: Gershon and Kohath, and Merari. And the years and the life of Levi were 137 years.
What's how many?
137.
Okay.
And the sons of Goshan, Libni and Shimei, according to their families. And the sons of Kohath, and Amram, and Azihar, and Hebron, and Uziel. And the years and the life of Kohath were 133 years. And the sons of Merari, Mahai, and Moshe. These are the families of Levites according to their generation. And Amram took him Joshabel, his father's sister, to wife, and she bare him Aaron and Moses. And the years of the life of Amram were 137 years. And the sons of Issachar, and Korah, and Nepheg, and Zikri, and the sons of Uziel, Mashael, and Elzaphan, and Zithrig. And Aaron took him Elisheba, daughter of
Aminadab,
sister of Nachshon, to wife. Okay. And she bare him Nabad and Abihu, Eleazar, and Ishamar, and the son of Korah, Asur, and the Elkanah, and Ben Asaph. These are the fathers or families of the Kornite. And Issachar, Aaron's son, took him one of the daughters of Putiel to wife, and she bare him Phinehas. These are the heads of the families of the Levites, according to their families. These are that Aaron and Moses, to whom the Lord said, bring out the children of Israel from the land of Egypt, according to their armies. These are they which spake to Pharaoh, king of Egypt, to bring out the children of Israel from Egypt. These are that Moses and Aaron. And it came to pass on the day when the Lord spake unto Moses in the land of Egypt, that the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, I am the Lord. Speak unto Pharaoh, king of Egypt, all that I say unto thee. And Moses said before the Lord, behold, I am of uncircumcised lips, and how shall Pharaoh hearken unto me? And the Lord said unto Moses, see, I have made thee a god to Pharaoh, and Aaron thy brother shall be thy prophet. Thou shalt speak all that I command thee. And Aaron thy brother shall speak unto Pharaoh, that he send the children of Israel out of his land. And I will hearken Pharaoh's heart, and multiply my signs and my wonders in the land of Egypt. But Pharaoh shall not hearken unto you, and I may lay my hand upon Egypt, and bring forth many armies, and my people, the children of Israel, out of the land of Egypt, by great judgment. And the Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord, when I stretch forth mine hand unto Egypt, and bring out the children of Israel from among them. And Moses and Aaron did as the Lord commanded them. The Lord commanded them, so they did. And Moses was 80 years old, and Aaron was 83 years old, when they spake unto Pharaoh. And the Lord spake unto Moses, and said unto Aaron, saying, when Pharaoh shall speak unto you, saying, show a miracle for you, that ye shall say unto Aaron, take thy rod and cast it before Pharaoh, and it shall become a snake. And Moses and Aaron went into Pharaoh, and they did as the Lord has commanded. And Aaron cast down his rod before Pharaoh, and before his servant, and it became a serpent. Then Pharaoh also called the wise men and the sorcerers, now the magicians of Egypt. They did in like manner with their enchantments, for they cast down every man his rod, and they became serpents. But Aaron's rod swallowed up their rods, and he hardened Pharaoh's heart, that he hearkened not unto them, as the Lord had said. He did not hearken unto them as the Lord had said. Okay. What I think by overview, and let me start from perhaps last week, maybe a good starting point, wherein the Parsha for last week was called Names, and it listed the various names of the tribes. And this is kind of a continuation because it starts out with the names too. But this is the name of God, and how God revealed one of his names to Abraham. We refer to them as names, but they can be better described, I think, as attributes of God. The first attribute in Genesis was the attributes of creation. And here in Exodus, the attribute or the name that is being used here is the name of, they say Hashem, but one of mercy and loving kindness, I believe. Mercy and love. So, in every area where God brings us, he uses a different name. God probably has thousands of names because each name referred to a particular attribute of God. But all these names point to one God. I think one of the prayers that the Jewish people use perhaps multiple times in a day is, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord thy God is one."
Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
There is only one God, and all these attributes point to that one God. Which is somewhat different than the pagans. Pagans believed in a God, but they believed in multiple gods. They really couldn't grasp the concept of one God overriding everything. They had hundreds and hundreds of gods. So what did I write here? What God is doing here is something completely new and completely different. It's never happened before, where one nation lived inside of another nation, and one of those nations was pulled out of that nation and taken somewhere else. What is happening here is something completely new and different in history. So Moses is called to change the course of history. I say this, that it gives birth to history, or perhaps even a new history. And it also changes the idea of history. Hence, something new is going on. In Genesis, God was a God of nature, the God all-powerful, the God of creation, who works by himself and who worked alone. But in Exodus, he is now looking to work as a partner with mankind to bring in something new. So hence God has become involved in history to shape the destination of a nation, and to do something never heard of before, but to bring one nation out of another nation, bringing one nation out from slavery to freedom, and to follow him into a desert and into a promised land. So he's creating a new type of society that is not based upon a new society that is based upon justice, the welfare of others, and a collective responsibility, and also a rule of law. A new thing in which human beings can reach their full dignity. The idea with God, we can change. The idea is that with God, we can change the world. Not to change it by ourselves. When God entered the world, he extended it to say that slavery and oppression and injustice were not written into the fabric of the universe or into the human condition. He's saying that things are different now. So God is creating, I think, Judy, you're fond of saying he's creating a new nation, but that nation is consisted of people and obviously consisted of a society. So yes, creating a new nation, a new society that has been unheard of before, something radically different. He is breaking the status quo of what people were thinking, at least religiously, that in earlier days people just didn't want to offend their gods, or they had to appease their gods in a certain way. But this, and well, doing it through oppression and then slavery of a society. But here it's completely different. The society that God is building is one of, as I said, of justice, welfare for others, and a collective responsibility. Maybe I should say collective and individual responsibility. It may be clear. Where slavery and oppression and injustice were not part of what God was creating. So maybe I'll stop there and let someone else make a comment while I look at one more thing here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, going back to what you said, with the problem with the pagans had so many gods.
Right.
That's the problem. They had to have a god for like everything. A god for I don't know if I'll be extreme.
Fire,
a god,
right.
yeah, well, yeah, a god for like when you get up in the morning. A god for before you walk outside. And so they just couldn't grasp that there's this one God is able to do all these things that 101 of their gods could do. So this is what God here is saying, the God of Israel is saying by his many attributes, which I love, because he started out by saying, I introduced myself, I appeared to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob by the name of El Shaddai. He said, I did not make myself known to them by my name, and that's the Yud He Vav He. They call that the unutterable name of God, and Jewish people would say Adonai. But that Yud He Vav He is a sacred name. He didn't make himself known. But then he says, I will also establish my covenant with them. And he names a number of things, and I didn't list them all. He said, I will give them the land of Canaan, in which they lived as sojourners. And then he says, I will free them. And I just wrote it briefly. I'm not going to read the whole thing because John already read it. But he said, I will free you. I will deliver you. I will redeem you. I will take you as my people. And I will bring you into the land. So and what I thought of when I read this is, as we've talked about it before, that the Torah is considered the ketubah. I don't know if you remember that term. The ketubah in Judaism is a marriage contract. And the marriage contract spells out what the groom is going to do. It's all about how the groom is going to take care of the bride. And it's her surety that if he doesn't do this, then he can be held accountable. So God as the groom of Israel, because we're going to see God marry Israel. He's going to marry Israel later on in Exodus, around Exodus 24. But he says this is what he's going to do as Israel's overseer and protector. He's going to do all of this. He'll free them, deliver them, redeem them, take them as his people, and bring them into the land. So it's almost like a courtship. And you know, how would you feel, you know, as a woman, if a man came up to me and said, you know, I'm going to do this is for you, and I'm going to put it in writing, and he's going to do all that for me? Of course I'm going to marry him. I'm going to rush him to the altar. And so this is he's building a nation, but he's also promising this nation that he's going to take care of them. But again, he's going to say, I will take care of you if you will just obey my law. So we get to that. But that's the main thing I wrote about that. And then one thing that caught my eye is chapter 7, verse 7. And it says, Moses was 80 years old and Aaron 83 when they made their demand on Pharaoh. And I just looked at it in English. I should have looked up in Hebrew to see what that was. But it caught me Bidavaram El Pharaoh. So I'm not quite sure what that is in the Hebrew, but I thought that was interesting. Anything else, anybody?
No, not this time. I may have some other things to reflect on, but not right now.
Okay. All right, we're going to take a break here, and then we'll get to the next part, the first 6 plagues, and we'll see just how God is dealing with Pharaoh. And there are some new things. I was listening to one of this guy I usually listen to, and he brought a lot of things out about what these plagues actually were. You see that this is like it's almost something like what Joseph did to his brothers, I think. Joseph, when he tells them to, he gives them a set of things he wants them to do. It says, I want you to go back and I want you to bring your brother to me. Right. And this and that. And Joseph was working out something here. And I think God is working out something with Pharaoh, or showing something about Pharaoh. So we'll see it. Okay. While you all are doing that, I will continue with this section because it seems like it's lengthy, but it's not. It's really not. But I'll just go ahead and read it. And I'm sure you have some comments because I didn't write a lot of comments, but I thought it was interesting. Okay, now this is the first 6 plagues. And the Lord said to Moses, Pharaoh is stubborn. He refuses to let the people go. Go to Pharaoh in the morning as he's coming out to the water. Station yourself before him at the edge of the Nile, taking with you the rod that turned into a snake. And say to him, the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, sent me to you to say, let my people go that they may worship me in the wilderness. But you have paid no heed until now. Thus saith the Lord, by this you shall know that I am the Lord. See, I shall strike the water in the Nile with the rod that is in my hand, and it will be turned into blood. And the fish in the Nile will die. The fish will stink so that the Egyptians will find it impossible to drink the water of the Nile. And the Lord said to Moses, say to Aaron, take your rod and hold out your arm over the waters of Egypt, its rivers, its canals, its ponds, all of its bodies of waters, that they may turn to blood. There shall be blood throughout the land of Egypt, even in vessels of wood and stone. Moses and Aaron did just as the Lord commanded. He lifted up the rod and struck the water in the Nile in the sight of Pharaoh and his courtiers. And all the water in the Nile was turned into blood. Then the fish in the Nile died. The Nile stank so that the Egyptians could not drink water from the Nile. There was blood throughout the land of Egypt. But when the magicians did the same with their spells, Pharaoh's heart stiffened, and he did not heed them, as the Lord had spoken. Pharaoh turned and went into his palace, paying no regard even to this. And all the Egyptians had to dig around the Nile for drinking water, because they could not drink the water of the Nile. When 7 days had passed after the Lord struck the Nile, the Lord said to Moses, go to Pharaoh and say to him, thus saith the Lord, let my people go that they may worship me. If you refuse to let them go, then I will plague your whole country with frogs. The Nile shall swarm with frogs, and they shall come up and enter your palace, your bedchamber and your bed, the houses of your courtiers and your people, and your ovens and your kneading bowls. And the frogs shall come upon you and your people and on all your courtiers. The Lord said to Moses, say to Aaron, hold out your arm with the rod over the rivers, the canals and the ponds, and bring up the frogs on the land of Egypt. Aaron held out his arm over the waters of Egypt, and the frogs came up and covered the land of Egypt. But the magicians did the same with their spells, and brought frogs upon the land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh summoned Moses and Aaron and said, plead with the Lord to remove the frogs from me and my people, and I will let the people go to sacrifice to the Lord. And Moses said to Pharaoh, you may have this triumph over me. For what time shall I plead in behalf of you and your courtiers and your people, that the frogs be cut off from you and your houses to remain only in the Nile? For tomorrow he replied, and Moses said, As you say, that you may know that there is none like the Lord our God. The frogs shall retreat from you, and your courtiers and your people. They shall remain only in the Nile. Then Moses and Aaron left Pharaoh's presence, and Moses cried out to the Lord in the matter of the frogs, which he had inflicted upon Pharaoh. And the Lord did as Moses asked. The frogs died out in the houses, the courtyards, and the fields, and they piled them up in heaps till the land stank. But when Pharaoh saw that there was relief, he became stubborn and would not heed them, as the Lord had spoken. Then the Lord said to Moses, Say to Aaron, Hold out your rod and strike the dust of the earth, and it shall turn to lice throughout the land of Egypt. And they did so. Aaron held out his arm with the rod and struck the dust of the earth, and vermin came upon the men and beasts. All the dust of the earth turned to lice throughout the land of Egypt. The magicians did the like with their spells to produce lice, but they could not. The vermin remained upon man and beast, and the magician said to Pharaoh, This is the finger of God. But Pharaoh's heart stiffened, and he would not heed them, as the Lord had spoken. And the Lord said to Moses, Early in the morning present yourself to Pharaoh, as he is coming out to the water, and say to him, Thus saith the Lord, Let my people go, that they may worship me. For if you do not let my people go, I will let loose swarms of insects against you and your courtiers, and your people and your houses. The houses of the Egyptians and the very ground they stand on shall be filled with swarms of insects. But on that day I will set apart the region of Goshen, where my people dwell, so that no swarms of insects shall be there, that you may know that I, the Lord, am in the midst of the land. And I will make a distinction between my people and your people. Tomorrow this sign shall come to pass. And the Lord did so. Heavy swarms of insects invaded Pharaoh's palace and the houses of his courtiers throughout the country of Egypt. The land was ruined because of the swarms of insects. Then Pharaoh summoned Moses and Aaron and said, Go and sacrifice to your God within the land. But Moses replied, It would not be right to do this, for what we sacrifice to the Lord our God is untouchable to the Egyptians. If we sacrifice that which is untouchable to the Egyptians before their very eyes, will they not stone us? So we must go to a distance of 3 days into the wilderness and sacrifice to the Lord our God, as he may command us. Pharaoh said, I will let you go to sacrifice to the Lord your God in the wilderness, but do not go very far. Plead then for me. And Moses said, When I leave your presence, I will plead with the Lord that the swarms of insects depart tomorrow from Pharaoh and his courtiers and his people. But let not Pharaoh again act deceitfully, not letting the people go to sacrifice to the Lord. So Moses left Pharaoh's presence and pleaded with the Lord. And the Lord did as Moses asked. He removed the swarms of insects from Pharaoh, from his courtiers, and from his people. Not one remained. But Pharaoh became stubborn this time also, and would not let the people go. The Lord said to Moses, Go to Pharaoh and say to him, Thus saith the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, Let my people go to worship me. For if you refuse to let them go, and continue to hold them, then the hand of the Lord will strike your livestock in the fields, the horses, the asses, the camels, the cattle, and the sheep, with a very severe pestilence. But the Lord will make a distinction between the livestock of Israel and the livestock of Egypt, so that nothing shall die of all that belongs to the Israelites. The Lord has fixed the time. Tomorrow the Lord will do this thing in the land. And the Lord did so the next day. All the livestock of the Egyptians died, but of the livestock of the Israelites not a beast died. When Pharaoh inquired, he found that not a head of the livestock of Israel had died. Yet Pharaoh remained stubborn, and he would not let the people go. Then the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, Each of you take handfuls of soot from the kiln, and let Moses throw it toward the sky in the sight of Pharaoh. It shall become a fine dust over all the land of Egypt, and cause an inflammation breaking out in boils on man and beast throughout the land of Egypt. So they took soot of the kiln and appeared before Pharaoh. Moses threw it toward the sky, and it caused an inflammation breaking out in boils on man and beast. The magicians were unable to confront Moses because of the inflammation, for the inflammation afflicted the magicians as well as all the other Egyptians. But the Lord stiffened the heart of Pharaoh, and he would not heed them, just as the Lord told Moses. This has several things. Well, I made a list, first of all, of the plagues. It started with the blood in the Nile. And then, hold on, I want to make sure. I want to make sure I didn't. Blood in the Nile. And everything. Drink. Oh, yeah, okay. I did write it right. Blood in the Nile. Everything stank because everything had died. The magicians did the same thing with their spells. Mm-hmm. Then they did frogs. The magicians did the same thing with their spells. Then the next thing was dust and lice. The magicians couldn't do that with their spells, and they said at that point, this is the finger of God. Next was a swarm of insects, then plague of livestock boils. So I thought that was interesting. And then one question I had, and maybe you came across it on your studies. Okay, when the magicians did their thing, when they did the blood, they did the frogs. Okay, they could do the lice. But Pharaoh goes to, he asked Moses to ask God to get rid of all that.
Yeah.
Why didn't he ask his magicians to get rid of them?
Because he didn't talent, they couldn't do it.
But they were able to
duplicate
do it,
yeah.
but they couldn't. But they couldn't do it. I guess get rid of them.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was interesting. I just throw that at you.
I thought when you were reading that, I thought something interesting too. I made a note of it. That God answered the prayer of a sinner, Pharaoh.
Oh, Pharaoh.
Yeah, he put in a request in God.
But he had to go through Aaron and Moses.
Through Moses, yeah. Now, this is actually a tail end of last week's lesson, and I thought it was ahead of in this week's lesson, but it's not. Where God makes the statement or the comment says, well, actually Moses thinks he was a failure. He went to the people telling them certain things that God had sent him, went to Pharaoh to let the people go, and Pharaoh didn't listen to him either. So Moses thought he was a failure. The people weren't listening to him. Pharaoh wasn't listening to him. And God, Moses goes to God, and God says to him, unto Moses, now therefore says, now shall thou see what I will do to Pharaoh. And one of the commentators I was reading was the key word, now I will see. Or what had happened all up to that point was human agencies were involved to let the Israelites out of the land and go worship. But that wasn't working. In fact, that request made things even worse for them, even harder for them. So it got to the point where there was nothing else available to them to free them. So technically the teacher was saying, now is the moment, what God is saying, that now this is the moment I was waiting for. I needed things to reach rock bottom, where there is the only thing left is God's might and God's mercy.
Exactly.
So nothing of human means can help you. No human resources are going to work for you. So now that some may say, well, gee, that seems a little hard for God to let them suffer like that. But he had to let them know that
this wasn't gonna,
right. You had to reach rock bottom, and a lot of people say it. I guess even people on alcohol, they got to reach rock bottom. Say, what can you do for them? Nothing. I can't do anything till they reach bottom.
Right.
Till they acknowledge that there is only one God.
Exactly.
So he had to wait for them to reach rock bottom.
Exactly.
And then he steps in and delivers them.
Well, and that answers the question. One of the questions I throw out. The magicians were able to do the blood, bled the frogs. And when they weren't able to do the dust and the lights, even they acknowledged this is the finger of God.
Right.
This is something we can't do. There should be no doubt that no human is involved in this, the finger of God. So, yes, that's where God is getting them to the point where the Exodus will be, the only way they could have gotten out is by the finger of God.
Right.
By God doing it.
There was also one other point they made, and I'm sure I had to tie it together. The other there's the aspect of free will. And there's a point here, I think I may be jumping ahead.
Mm-hmm.
There's a point where free will isn't involved anymore.
Mm-hmm.
One of the teachers gave the example of when a woman is in childbirth, and at that moment the child is delivered.
Mm-hmm.
You know, something takes place. It's free will. It's outside of her control and outside of the baby's control to be born. But that little tiny aspect where free will is, there isn't free will. The baby's going to be born no matter what she can do. She can't stop it. Or maybe that's it. There's a point in childbirth where the woman can't stop it. And at that point where she can't stop it and the baby can't stop being born is where free will is suspended.
Is that what you're saying about Pharaoh? That Pharaoh was just going to do what he was going to do. At some point, he's just going to do what he was going to do.
Well, he's doing that now.
Right.
Right now he's exercising free will. But there will come a point where free will, he can't exercise free will because it's going to happen. And in fact, I don't know if he says it per se, but it's going to happen and he has no control over it happening. And there's a point where the children of Israel, their exodus is going to happen, but they will have no control over it. And it's just a little slice in time.
Well, that's a good analogy because, as you just said, I'm fond of saying this: a nation is being born. There's this birth pains going on here, and this nation, at some point, this nation is going to be born.
Yeah.
These birth pains, it starts out little, and then what happens? All of a sudden, they are out with a mighty force. God frees them from the womb of Egypt, and this nation is born.
Yeah.
Just like when Pharaoh, he realized that he can't keep him anymore. He got to let him go.
Right. Exactly.
Exactly.
He thinks he's in control right now.
Yeah.
He just throws his hand up.
Yeah.
Say go.
Yeah.
Then when he realized he let them go, he's like, oh, I got to get him back.
Yeah. And how can you put a baby back in the womb? You can. It's like you can put a baby back in the womb. The dog go to pet that sucker, but you can't put a baby back in the womb.
It's over. It's done.
Yeah, it's done.
Your free will.
It's done.
Your time free will has ended.
It's done.
Yeah.
It's done.
It's done.
And another thing, I don't know if we do it enough, but I like to bring it back to today because there's nothing new under the sun. But sometimes you have to paint a picture. What's happening back there looks like it's so far away, and it's just so it just doesn't seem like it could have happened. But remember what Solomon said: "There's nothing new under the sun." One thing was happening. Remember when they said all of the beasts, all the animals died, but they didn't die in the land of Goshen where the Israelites were. And we'll see when we get to the part where it's so dark and everything. It's going to be so dark in Egypt, but it wasn't dark in the land of Goshen. That goes to show you that God is looking out for his people. And we must remember that God is looking. As long as we do what he says, then he will look out for us. And we need to remember that. Let's see if I have anything else. What was it in 6? No, I didn't write anything. I thought it was one, and also to make this more real too, because it just seems. I think this happened. All this happened over a period of a year. I don't know where I got that from.
I forgot.
I'm not sure. I thought it wasn't like it happened in a week, because some of the stuff where they had to wait 7 days and then something happened. It took a while. But I'll tell you, for example, one of the teachers I listened to, and he goes into the midrash, the Jewish oral history and all that kind of stuff, and he had read, and that has a lot of information. It's almost like a commentary, so to speak. It's not the actual word of God, but it's the commentary on what people thought. And he said when they talk about the frogs, invading it. He said the frogs were everywhere. He said including inside the Egyptians. That's how bad it was. It wasn't just the frogs flocking around on the floor, but it was just really bad. And so you can see that these plagues, I mean, and can you imagine if the water, you use a Nile for a source of water to drink and it's all blood in there, you can't drink it. You got to go and get some more water from somewhere. So again, this is very real and very vivid. Anything else?
I think part of my studies jumps ahead to next week's lesson, but I'll hold off.
And you probably
I'll hold that off for next week's lesson. But what is that? Well, I may disagree with Solomon somewhat, in that there's nothing new under the sun. But a new society is being built instead of one built on might and injustice and biases, but one that is being built on, as I said before, freedom, justice, and the dignity of human beings. Every society, and one of the commentators mentioned that even at that time of Egypt, before the Exodus, countries wanted to maintain the status quo. They didn't want things to change. They had a certain order, and they didn't want to disrupt that order. So when this religious order comes out through Moses, this is something that's very radical. People tend to think of Christianity being a very conservative religion. Well, it's not. Maybe even Judaism as being a very conservative religion. It is not. It's a very radical religion. It broke the norm. It broke the way of thinking by coming up with something new. So is Judaism somewhat radical? Yeah, it's a radical religion.
I think you don't have to go back then to say it, because Solomon's right. There's nothing new under the sun. Consider even right now, today, if you talk about the sanctity of life, if you're against abortion, you are considered radical. That's a radical idea in this society, even worldwide. If you're against gay marriage, that's radical. It's against the Torah.
Right.
They have more rights. They're giving them more rights.
But it's a radical thought. You would be jailed if you said it in the wrong atmosphere. People right now are going through tremendous hell because they believe in the Torah, and they are being fined, losing their businesses. So,
well, at the beginning, that was the norm. The gay rights. I'm saying a long time ago. That was accepted behavior. Paganism, idolatry, that was accepted behavior.
It's accepted now.
Maybe I'm wrong. I was saying that most people tend to think of Christianity and even Judaism as a conservative religion. But being radical is to enhance the dignity of humanity. Gay rights is not an enhancement of.
No, it's not. But if you were to go into, I'll speak about churches. If you were to go into a lot of churches, they would beat you down if you're talking about being against gay rights.
But they think it's a radical idea. It's not.
Yes, they think it's a radical. But to us who knows the difference, we know.
Right.
But what I'm saying to you now is that we're back in this time when God was building this nation. The same mess is happening. So that when this nation he's building comes out and they say, well, no, I'm not going to do this, not going to do that. Yeah, they think it's radical because they're doing a whole bunch of other mess.
Yeah. Well, they at that time didn't want it to change. Or maybe they wanted to change back.
Yes, they didn't want it
to.
Exactly, they didn't want it to change.
They want that same life. They don't want that life to change.
Yes, exactly, and that's why we are.
Now, maybe this is the part of the lesson, and that is the reason that thinking is that way is that they do not fully understand the various names of God and how God interacts with humanity. They have not reached that place of rock bottom to call upon God's name. they haven't reached, as God would say, that now place where they've reached rock bottom, where they've used up all their resources.
I agree with you on that. No, they haven't reached. They haven't reached. Yeah, they think they're.
Oh yeah, they think they're.
But they have not. Yeah, they have not reached rock bottom. They do not understand the nature of God. They do not understand that Jesus isn't some hippie who is for everything and about loving in that sense. Loving, he's not. They don't understand his laws and his prohibitions. No, they don't understand that. No, no, because if they did. I'm sorry.
Yet some people, if they do hit rock bottom, they turn to other drugs.
Yeah.
To ease their pain.
Yeah.
You're right.
Well, that's why they don't go to the rock bottom, but they are at the rock bottom.
You're right.
They're using something else other than God.
That is
their pain.
The Holy Spirit's that is so good, because that's where we are now with the medical marijuana. They're using it. Yes, I'm sure it has its uses, medical marijuana, but I dare say it could be abused, and it could be abused in that way where people who are using it in place of God. I like that. I didn't even have to explain that no more. That's good. You are right. They hit rock bottom, but they're using
something other than God too.
Yes.
Help ease their pain.
Exactly.
They think it's easing their pain.
Exactly, but it's not. That's very good, and that's where we are, and people don't realize that. People do not realize that. Yeah. That's very good. Very good. Anything else?
No, that's about all I have for now.
Well, we're going to complete the Parsha with the last 4 plagues, and it doesn't have the last 4. It only has a couple of them, I think. But the section in this particular my Torah, it goes into the next lesson will be bow, and so I think the plagues are continued and bow are concluded there. So we're going to read from Exodus 9th chapter 13th verse to the 35th verse, very short. It said, "The Lord said to Moses, early in the morning, station yourself before Pharaoh. Say to him, thus saith the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, let my people go to worship me. For this time I will send all my plagues upon your person and your courtiers and your people, in order that you may know that there is none like me in all the world. I could have stretched forth my hand and stricken you and your people with pestilence, and you would have been effaced from the earth. Nevertheless, I have spared you for this purpose, in order to show you my power, in order that my fame may resound throughout the world. Yet you continue to thwart my people, and do not let them go. This time, tomorrow, I will rain down a very heavy hail, such as not been seen in Egypt from the day it was founded until now. Therefore order your livestock and everything you have in the open, brought under shelter, every man and beast that is found outside, not having been brought indoors, shall perish when the hail comes down upon them. Those among Pharaoh's courtiers who feared the Lord's word brought their slaves and livestock indoors to safety. But those who paid no heed or no regard to the word of the Lord left their slaves and livestock in the open. The Lord said to Moses, hold out your arm toward the sky, that hail may fall on all the land of Egypt, upon man and beast, and all the grasses of the field in the land of Egypt. So Moses held out his rod toward the sky, and the Lord sent thunder and hail and fire streamed down to the ground, as the Lord rained down hail upon the land of Egypt. The hail was very heavy, fire flashing in the midst of the hail, such as had not fallen on the land of Egypt since it had become a nation. Throughout the land of Egypt the hail struck down all that were in the open, both men and beasts. The hail struck down all the grasses of the field, and shattered all the trees of the field. Only in the region of Goshen, where the Israelites were, there was no hail. Thereupon Pharaoh sent for Moses and Aaron, and said to them, I stand guilty this time. The Lord is in the right. I and my people are in the wrong. Plead with the Lord that there may be an end of God's thunder and of hail, and I will let you go. You need stay no longer. Moses said to him, as I go out of the city, I shall spread out my hands to the Lord. The thunder will cease, and the hail will fall no more, so that you may know that the earth is the Lord's. But I know that you and your courtiers do not fear the Lord. Now the flax and the barley are ruined. For the barley was in the ear, and the flax was in the bud. But the wheat and the emar were not hurt, for they ripened late. Leaving Pharaoh, Moses went outside the city and spread out his hands to the Lord. The thunder and the hail ceased, and no rain came pouring down upon the earth. But when Pharaoh saw that the rain and the hail and the thunder had ceased, he reverted to his guilty ways, as did his courtiers. So Pharaoh's heart stiffened, and he would not let the Israelites go, just as the Lord had foretold through Moses. So here we are. Yet again, Pharaoh does not heed God. Although I thought an interesting passage was said that there were some Israelites who believed and took in their livestock and their people, their slaves, and brought them in. But remember again, in the land of Goshen where the Israelites were, there was no hail. So for us, that should be a witness that God can protect us in any circumstance. He did here. Mm-hmm. So.
Mm-hmm. It still comes down to, I guess, these are, I guess, with all these various plagues, I've been told that they represented the various gods of Egypt. Mm-hmm. Now, here, this role that Moses is doing, he's really saying that all these things are happening, but not by a different God, but by the same God. There's only one God that's doing all these things, mm-hmm. not multiple gods. And maybe some of the Egyptians were persuaded or came to say, well, no, this isn't multiple gods, this is one God, because there's one person mm-hmm. who's, at least maybe in their thinking, hey, there's this one person and he can talk to all these various gods.
Right.
No, there can't be.
Right.
He can only be talking to one.
Right.
Well, why would all these other gods be talking to Moses being one person?
Right.
The logic would probably say, no, there can't be hundreds of them. Mm-hmm. There's got to be one, because this one guy
is talking to
him.
Right.
So.
Right.
But it took a while for the Egyptians to get that way, or Pharaoh to get there, and he probably never got there. Mm-hmm. But it still says it's going to take some time for even us to bring that message to our fellow human being. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Moses had a tough time convincing Pharaoh, and we're going to have a tough time convincing other people who are not believers, who do not believe that God is one.
Well, but our job isn't to convince them. Our job is to tell them.
Or to bring the message to them. Well,
to bring the message.
No, well, when you're out talking to a person, mm-hmm. it's very difficult not to become personal. And if the person doesn't accept, you say, wow, what did I do wrong? Right. So, I know, but in that respect.
I know, because you're talking about your open air preaching, but the thing, your part as an open air preacher or whatever is to relay the message. Now, it's not your responsibility whether that person believes, or you're relaying a message, just like Moses and Aaron did. They relayed the message to Pharaoh. Now, it's up to him whether he's going to believe it. You have no control, but you relay the message.
If they don't receive it, that's them.
Now, well, I don't know if that's cut and dry, because it does have an effect on you if they don't.
No, I know it has an effect on you, but you should tell yourself, how can you convince someone? You can't. God only says to you is to relay the message. Mm-hmm.
True.
Convincing is up to him.
You're the messenger.
Yeah.
What can I say?
Yeah.
It's still.
I know, it hurts your little feelings.
Yeah.
That you figure, but it's not about you. It's not. You just relay the message.
But Moses had the same problem.
Oh, I'm sure Moses did.
And said, well, hey, they're not listening to me. You go open air preach.
But God didn't tell.
And you come back with the same answer Moses gave.
But God didn't.
The people are not listening to me, nor is Pharaoh listening to me.
God said to Moses, God didn't say, now Moses, go and bring my people out. God says, I will bring. God says, I will bring. The first part.
He said, you go tell.
Yes.
You tell him to do this.
Tell him.
You tell him to do that.
Exactly.
And he did that.
Yes.
And if he
that's all he was supposed to do.
If he doesn't, then that's when he brought the plagues on.
Exactly.
It's like, oh, well, he's whooping him.
That's it.
He did, and he still went back, and he thought he was a failure.
But I can't help that if he thought it was that. God didn't tell him to. God just said, "Go and tell him," like you said. Go and tell him. That's all.
Did.
That's it. He was success.
So So, hopefully you're not finding fault with Moses for going back complaining to God. So, you know something, God?
No.
They didn't listen to me.
I know.
In fact,
No.
God told them
No.
they wouldn't listen.
Yeah, he did. He said they
He
will
told
not
before
listen.
he went.
They-
He told before he left.
Exactly.
Okay,
Before
so
he
that
did.
took right up
But
front.
he did. But that didn't
say
negate.
no.
That didn't say. God didn't say, well, don't go because they're not gonna listen. He said,
Don't
go.
try and don't try.
That's right. He said, go. That's all. That's it. And that's what we're to do. Again, let's bring it down to today. We're to tell it. We're to tell the story, whether they believe us or not.
People today, they're just gonna look at it like you're crazy.
Yeah. And that's
So what you talking about?
Yeah.
What?
so we have to. So
I told you, so it's up to you to
yes,
accept
that's
it.
right.
Yeah.
You tell them. That's your job done right there. Whether they believe it or not, which they aren't. That's what God said. They're not gonna do it. Not gonna. Pharaoh's not gonna. But the people not gonna believe it. But it's up to God to.
Now, then the people even complained that Moses brought additional hardship.
Oh
on
yes.
them.
Oh yeah.
They put the blame on them,
Yeah.
Yeah.
just like today.
Yeah,
You do
that's-
something, so
Yes.
they put the blame on you. Oh,
Yes.
you made this because
Yeah.
of
You made it happen.
because of you. We're
And
in this
it's-
situation.
That's correct.
You got a good
no,
point.
the situation is worse because of you.
Yeah.
You
You got a good
not-
point.
As if we had it that good. We were in slavery.
You got a good point. That's a very good point.
It's absolutely worse.
Because even now, some of the talk about the United States acknowledging Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, people are upset because say, why are you stirring things up? Well, no, it's the truth. You're not stirring anything up. Oh, they're gonna be upset. They're gonna be upset anyway. They're upset now. So again, only thing you just tell the truth. God's truth, and you let God worry about the other stuff because we can't. That is not our problem. Now if we're not a good messenger, if we don't do what He said to, now then God will have us. He'll take us to task. But we just tell it like we are right now. We're rightly dividing the word, and we're telling it, and that's all we have to do. Mr. Open Air Preacher, I know, yeah.
Well, nothing happens until they hit rock bottom.
I love that. I love that.
That's when it happens.
I love
when
that.
They hit rock bottom.
With us all.
Yeah.
With us all.
Yeah.
And and I think the goal for us as people who are trying to follow God's word is to remember that it's Him doing it. We have to believe in Him. Our faith is in Him. And I'm saying that because oftentimes you want to do something. You got to say, well, I got to do this. I got to do something. I got to do something. Yeah, I got to increase my faith.
Did you ever go see that one movie I told you about the atheist preacher?
No, I did not remember. You have to give him the name of it.
He hit rock bottom.
Yes.
This guy, the reason he hit it because he saw the sun in the light.
Mm-hmm.
And then the sun told him, no, you gotta go back.
Mm-hmm.
And when he went back, first he still denied it. People, how do you feel about your death experience, almost your life death experience? Oh, it was nothing. Then he was he was on stage giving a speech, as they call it. He just started going into trance and stuff. And then when they got him to the hospital, then he finally told his ex-wife, he said, you know what? I believe in God. He said, I saw my son. And that's when he hit rock bottom.
Oh, yes.
Before he was like, oh, God, who's God?
Yes.
There's no God.
Exactly.
He
And
said,
that's what a lot of us, I think, we can experience that we don't acknowledge God's sovereignty and power. It just seems like a fairy tale to us. But
it's
it's
a life-threatening
real
experience.
Yes.
You're about to die, then it's all.
Yeah, exactly. But he is so real, and what He's commanded us to do right here. This is not a fairy tale here. This is real.
I go, what? You don't believe in God? He goes, no. I go, who you believe in? He goes, I believe in myself. I go, so if you go out that door right now, that a tree was falling on your head, whose fault is it? Mother Nature. I said, you don't think that's something that caused you to get hit? Maybe you did something that you probably deserved it. I don't believe in that junk. I said, okay. But he was. They want to.
Yeah, you have to have an experience with God, the one true God.
Yeah, he was like
hit rock bottom. Everybody has to hit their bottom. And the thing we know is that God is just, and that He is faithful, and that He will give everybody a chance to reach the bottom in order to call out to Him. Everybody will have a chance. He is fair. Everybody will have a chance. Then they have to decide once they reach that bottom if they're going to reach out to some drugs or reach out to something else, or they're going to reach out to God. That's what it is. And I think
some people even go to a more extreme than that. They kill themselves.
Yes, yes.
They can't help it. They can't take it.
Yeah.
They think, well, it's too hard. I can't live it. I can't move. I can't live another day. And they just.
But if we reach out to Him, we know that He will reach out to us. He will.
I said that. I'll say about that Harry Truman currency, that $20 bill.
Yeah.
That happens this year.
Oh,
on the 20th.
Oh, January?
April.
Wow.
A lot of people don't even know about it. But it's already set. So Frederick Douglass is going to be on the 10 or the 15. 10 or the 5.
Okay, well, next week, the Parsha is called Bo, and it's from, it's go, or the thing is, or better translation is enter, and it's from Exodus, the 10th chapter, verse 1, until the 13th chapter, verse 16. And it starts out, Veyomer Adonai el Moshe bo el paro ki ani hikbarti el lavo ve'et lev avdav lema'an shte oti ele bekarvo. And it said, then the Lord said to Moses, go to Pharaoh, for I've hardened his heart and the hearts of his courtiers, in order that I may display these my signs among them. So we see the continuation of what God is doing. He's birthing a nation through which the Messiah will come. Anything else?
No, not for me.
Okay. I had a couple of songs. Let's sing Just As I Am, and I hope I remember the words. I didn't get a chance to print them out, but if I don't think about it too much, I think I can sing it. Sing the first verse. I hope so. I hope y'all remember it if I don't. Just as I am without one plea, but that thy blood was shed for me, and that thy bids me come to thee, O Lamb of God, I come. I come. We used to sing that song at the end of services when they open the doors to the church, and we sang it so many times, and I look back on those times, and that's when people really had faith, because they grew up in a time of segregation, Jim Crow, and they didn't the government was trying to degrade them, the government itself. But when I look back, we had such a strong community. We were segregated, but we didn't look on ourselves as being any less. We had goals. Our teachers, our churches had goals for their children. They wanted them to get more education. They wanted them to rise higher than they had risen. And that was always the goal, even though we were in a segregated community. They had pride. I remember the church services. That was your entertainment. There weren't any movies and all that kind of stuff, so you were in church all the time. And so we learned a lot of things. We learned that there was more to this life, that God expected more from us. And unfortunately, through although the civil rights movement did some really good things, it really kind of ended some things. It ended that sense of community, because Now there's no sense of community within the black community. There's we should be higher because we were so much higher before. We should be so much further down the road. But my prayer is that the Lord will again lift us up, that He will open our eyes to what He was doing for us even during Jim Crow and segregation, that we were accomplishing so much, just like the story today about even in the land of Goshen in Egypt, the Israelites had light. They were protected. Even during the midst of segregation, God protected us. And God allowed the children of former slaves to get an education, to learn to read and write, to buy land, to build houses, to own businesses. I mean, that's all. You know, we had to do it because we were segregated, so you had to have those things within your own community. And so, my prayer is that we get back to that. And the thing is, people call upon the name of the Lord. There was no food stamps, no stuff like that. So you couldn't go to the government and say, well, give me some food stamps. So like, no, call upon the name of the Lord. And the Lord made so many things available to us. Gardens and food aplenty. Your neighbors dropping off food on your doorsteps. Oranges, citrus, all this food. Because there was no food stamps. And so we have to get back to the point where we continue to call upon the name of the Lord. He's our only hope, that we reach bottom. That's a hard prayer to pray, but that's the only thing that's going to save us, that we reach bottom so that we could reach out to the Lord. And I pray that we continue to do His will, that we continue to dig into His Word, because it's so deep. There's so much in here, and we got a lot out, but there's still so much more. And I pray that He will continue to bless and keep us, which I know He will, and show us His will for us, what He wants us to do, which I know He will. And so I say have a good week, Shavua Tov, and a Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.